We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the NFL Preview Show. We are here. We are ready to go and ready to rock and roll with you. I am Hamilton Mike Galetta, along with the partners in crime on the Sports Box that you've seen a lot of times, Brandon Gazzara and Brian, the Ranger at Tartonia Quigley, will be along shortly. Gentlemen, what is up on this Sunday morning?
Brandon, you look different. You color your hair?
No.
All right. Only people of our. I don't do it either, but you know. People
Brian, do you have a leaf blower going over there?
I don't personally. Somebody I'm paying to have a leaf blower is doing it right now. I don't do any manual labor if at all possible.
Color my hair. I don't even have to think about that. I'm only 23. I'm not 107.
Time comes up for everybody.
Sometimes you will. So anyway, we will get to the NFL lineup. Today, we got a lot going on, but first, Brian will give you a little bit of crap about CrowdPlay.
Welcome to the Sunday Preview Show on the Sports Box every Sunday at 11 a.m. or slightly thereafter, like today. We are brought to you by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Check out their free app. It is totally free to play on Apple App Store, Google Play. You can download it, win cash and prizes for predicting the outcome of virtual and real sporting events. Use our code THEBOX at sign up, get 10 free points. Because I say this every week, if you're like me, listen, the 10 points are a godsend because I don't think I've gotten too many since. It's very difficult, but if you win, it's worth it.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Big lineup this week. I mean, we're getting into the holidays. We're going to have, I guess, 3 games on Thanksgiving. We will talk about, I guess, a little bit. And, let's get to it.
I was actually not prepared for that. It's actually good.
We won't be talking about Thanksgiving Day.
Well, you mentioned Thursday, so we'll start with Thursday.
Okay.
Seahawks get what I think was a must-win game. We said it last week. The way it was going for their schedule, they absolutely had to get a win this week, and they did. 28-21 over the rival Cardinals, so they take over top spot in the division. They're 7-3 going into another bye week next week at the Eagles on Monday Night Football. The Cardinals fall to 6-4. They get New England next week in New England. Russell Wilson has passed Peyton Manning with 92 wins for the most quarterback wins their first 9 years. You want to look at one reason why Arizona lost this game, 115 penalty yards. That's the most they've had since, I want to say, 2016. It was a bit of a slow-moving game, guys. We were ready for the shootout between a really bad Seattle defense, Kyler Murray running around, throwing the ball. It didn't really materialize that way, though, so maybe Seattle can take something from that.
Yeah, Carlos Dunlap was fantastic. He made the game-ending sack. He had another sack. But Kyler Murray got hit early on in the game, landed on his right shoulder, and never really seemed to recover from that. And his legs, I think that hit kind of swayed him away from running the football. He was effective throwing, but you didn't see Kyler Murray be as explosive with his legs, which I think was, partly due to the hit that he took and hurt his shoulder He was getting heat all night long on that shoulder. But the Seahawks looked fantastic. That's the way they need to win. They need to run the football. Russell Wilson not going to turn the football over, make big plays. DK Metcalf is amazing. And the defense stepped up led by Carlos Dunlap and Jamal Adams, the two guys that they added in the offseason and at the trade deadline.
Yeah, Brandon said it best with the Murray situation. I mean, that's the way you're going to have to control him is you hit him and hit him hard and convince him not to run the ball. What I said before, and I'll say it again with all running quarterbacks, the age of running quarterbacks hasn't flourished as much as we think it has because, you have linebackers, defensive backs that are a lot quicker, a lot stronger, a lot faster. Murray is kind of a freak along with Jackson, but in any sense down the road, they're either going to slow them down defensively or they're going to hit them like they did Murray in this game, and they beat him up pretty good. And that's one of his strong points is running. When you cut a guy like that down in running, that kind of helps Seattle out big time. The game was slow, Brian, I think, in the beginning because just both teams needed the game, I think, and it was like a chess match in the beginning to see who's going to open up the field first. And to Seattle's credit, they really came out and played well. Drake played well for Arizona, and Kirk. I thought Hopkins would be a little bit more involved, but Seattle covered them. They did a good job and slowed the high-powered offense of Arizona down, and that's how they got the win.
Which they really haven't done all year. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, we talk about every week about how this defense is a disaster and it's going to cost Russell Wilson shots at MVPs and division titles and maybe even a championship. They played as well as you can probably want them to play. I mean, give them credit. It was a short week. They were in a tough spot in a must-win game, and they won the game. And that is one of these things where if they end up making a run at some point in the postseason, you can look back on this and say this might be where that tide turned. And you always have these games for teams. Like, again, listen, everybody thought that Kyler Murray and Hopkins and Drake, and they were going to go in there and just blow the doors, at least on the defense. It may have still been a high-scoring game. They may still have lost, but they were going to put up a lot of points. That didn't really happen. They put up 21 points. That's low for a Cardinals team, which was, we said it last week. Murray that scored 5 straight games of a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. Nobody had done that in NFL history. So, just meteoric offensive numbers, and they really didn't have a very good game. I don't really have an explanation for it because Seattle's defense has been really bad all year. They showed up when they needed to.
Yeah, the difference is Seattle could run the ball and Arizona could not, and that's a big part of what Arizona's offense is, and they weren't able to do it. A bright spot for Arizona, though, is their rookie first-round pick, Isaiah Simmons, who seemed to make every single play for the Cardinals on Thursday night. He was all over the place, and his playing time has increased, and so has his production.
Yeah, I mean, they put up 21 points, and people could say, well, yeah, they put up 21 points. That's a lot of points. Yeah, but like Brian said, the high-powered offense of Arizona, I mean, they're scoring 28, 35 points a game. So for Seattle, bad Seattle defense, probably in the bottom 5 of the league right now, to slow them down to 21 points is a big accomplishment, really.
It's bottom 1. It's bad. And they got to figure that out before the playoffs anyway. Yep. So that's their own issue. But again,
how's that Jamal Adams trade looking right now?
Not good. No. Not good. I mean, again, it was a heavy price to pay. We're going to see what their cap looks like in a couple of years because they're going to run into issues with that. But
I mean, if they win the Super Bowl this year, it doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I completely agree. But to put that kind of resource into your defense and have this be the result is not really optimal.
Yeah, and Brandon, how many teams do you see win the Super Bowl? How many teams do you win the Super Bowl are defensive teams? And
and you can't be bad on defense, just like you can't be bad offensively. You got to be good at both. And Seattle's terrible at one and fantastic at another. So I mean, they're kind of
You can score 49 points a game if your defense isn't a good defense. You're in a lot of trouble. So,
and both of these teams stand to win next week on the road against combatants of Super Bowl 52. Mm-hmm. I think the major story today, guys, is. All right, so we know Drew Brees ain't playing. We know this, right? But we all kind of thought it'd be Jameis Winston, and apparently it's not. It's the tight end playing. I am not going to sit here and say he's good, he's bad, whatever it is. It ain't Drew Brees. I get that.
I will.
I know you will. Look, if you were making this call, what would you do? We don't know what Sean Payton's going to do. We can talk about that if we disagree with it or not. But what would you do here?
Let Mike go first.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. So I think in Sean Payton's mind, he thinks that maybe Tyson Hill knows the offense a little bit better, maybe than Jameis Winston. Only been there 1 year. In my opinion, I mean, not trying to be a hater and all. I just know how Jameis is, and I don't think Jameis is a good quarterback. I mean, he came into a game last week to cover for Drew Brees, who got hurt. He took the team down to the 3-yard line, and 4 plays could not get in. You can say that's coaching. You can say whatever that is, but for a veteran like Jameis Winston, you got to get the ball in the end zone. He did nothing in the second half to anything show that he's that kind of a leader to come into a full game and take this Saints team. I mean, listen, worst case scenario, you put Hill into the game. He's not doing well. He starts, going south a little bit. Then maybe you go to Jameis a little bit. But I think, again, it falls back on that he sees that there's not a big drop-off from he sees there's a little bit of a drop-off from Hill to Winston. And he's starting Hill because Hill knows the offense a little bit better, and he's more versatile than Jameis Winston. He can use him in different plays, wildcat plays, and you never know it. So that I think is the reason why he's doing it. But in my own opinion, I think Jameis stinks. So.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. But to me, it's, I would play Taysom Hill because what are the Saints' offense? They're a dink and dunk offense. Get it to Alvin Kamara. Get it to Michael Thomas. Don't turn the football over. What's Jameis Winston? Down the field passes, turning the football over, making dumb mistakes. That's the exact opposite of what the New Orleans Saints are. Play it safe with Taysom Hill. He can still make you those plays, do the wildcat type of stuff, and make the throws to Michael Thomas, get the ball to Alvin Kamara. To me, Taysom Hill, it's almost an obvious play. I never really understood the Jameis Winston signing. It's the complete opposite of what Drew Brees is and that offense. And typically your backup, you want him to be a replica of your starter, as close as you can possibly get. And that's just not the case with Jameis Winston. He's the complete opposite. To me, Taysom Hill makes all the sense. You can still run the same offense. They play a bad team today. They play Atlanta. They should win this game. They should score. To me, I think Taysom Hill is the obvious choice at quarterback.
So a quick question to both of you guys. Now, coming into this year, people were saying, oh, well, the Jameis Winston signing looks like that he's going to get the keys to the city right after Drew Brees is gone. How's that looking right now? What do you think about that now?
I was about to say the same thing, and I was on that bandwagon. I said, listen, you bring this guy in for nothing. He was a starting quarterback, number 1 overall pick. I mean, you can say maybe there was coaching issues where he was in Tampa. I'm not going to dispute that, but you're in a system now behind one of the best of all time in Drew Brees, one of the best coaches of all time in Sean Payton. The numbers speak for themselves. They put him in for a half last week. It didn't really look very good. So whatever it was, they did not get any sort of confidence that this is the guy we want to try to move forward with. I don't know. I mean, he didn't really get a full off season, so it's a 1-year deal, so maybe not. I mean, I'm not going to close that door, but at the same time, if you were betting that, the odds just got a lot longer, in my opinion.
Well, you got to resign Hill too, so I mean,
just think back to Teddy Bridgewater last year. And they ran the exact same offense. It's very similar. He's not a guy who pushes the ball down the field. Not going to make a lot of mistakes. So to me, it's an obvious decision to go with Hill, who's not going to lose you the game, which Jameis has shown that he can and will.
Absolutely. 30-30.
That's just,
34, actually. I found that out. I thought it was. I thought the same as you, that it was that. I don't know. I just look at it and say, there he is. I just look at it and I wonder, how he's fallen this bad. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, again, the turnovers are real. I'm not going to dispute that. I get it. But wow. I mean, if you can't get the start over Taysom Hill, who can you start over? Tony, we'll bring you in here. Your thoughts on this, because I think it's insane. It's not insane that this is a bad move, but my God, I mean, this guy was the number 1 pick in the draft. He was going to be re-signed if Tom Brady didn't want to go to Tampa.
Your hate for Taysom Hill sounds pretty familiar right now, Brian. But I'm not going to comment on who it was. But listen, I think right now people are getting they're looking at this wrong. I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons to bash Jameis Winston. He's not performing how he wants to be. He doesn't have the number 1 pick. Like I said, I don't know what you guys covered on this subject already, but my feeling is this on it too. People are putting way too much stock as a negative on Jameis Winston as they are as far as what Taysom Hill actually is. So are we having a little audio problem here?
No, it's Brian's leaf blower.
Brian Lee.
No, that's my guy cleaning the.
There you go.
Brandon said the same thing.
Because we know Brian wasn't going to
It's
do his own
just-
leaves.
Tony, Brandon
Yeah.
said the same thing. It was so funny.
Anyway, no. So listen. I think people are putting way too much negativity on Jameis Winston as it is positively on Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a quarterback for BYU, was phenomenal. Unfortunately, broke his leg 2 years in a row. He's played with the New Orleans Saints, and you see the packages that he's put in. Okay, so the packages that he's put in have been relatively successful. He hasn't been used as a traditional quarterback, but at the same time, Sean Payton has a huge amount of confidence in him. To go out there. And if you look at the situation where the New Orleans Saints are, all right, they have a very winnable game against Atlanta. Then they go into Denver, which they should win. And then they go into Atlanta, which, we'll see. It's hard beating a conference team twice in a row. So I think you have to look at the situation and how it dictates. I think Sean Payton has enough confidence in the number of packages that they have Taysom Hill in to go out there and run and effectively win these games. Because they do have Tampa Bay still on their heels, even though they beat them up last time, it's still a thing that they're trying to win this division. The worst thing that they could do is put Jameis Winston out there and he falters. And if he falters bad and they drop Atlanta, now what do you have to do? Now you have to hurry up and go back to Taysom Hill? So I think you're going to see a scaled back game plan. I think you're going to see something similar to what, something like Greg Roman does and these kind of situations. The one thing that of note, though, is Jameis Winston. It seems like there's a little locker room divide in New Orleans that came out a report I read today where a lot of the players are supporting of Jameis Winston. I mean, I guess he's popular in the locker room and whatnot. So when you're looking at it from that factor, it seems interesting. But I have confidence in Taysom Hill. I think he's in the packages that they run, they have enough offensive weapons. They might not win this game without Marshawn Lattimore trying to shut down Julio Jones. But at the same time, I don't believe it's going to be Taysom Hill's fault.
Yeah, and he's definitely a top 3-4 tight end play this week for sure. Taysom Hill.
Well, that's. I mean, don't get me started on that because the fact that ESPN has him eligible as a tight end is just shows you what kind of nonsense it is, and the ESPN product itself, great price, but this is the kind of crap you get. I mean,
it's helping me out.
Our system, it's just a mess.
It's helping me out though, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that?
I got him, so yeah, I love it.
Well, next week it's going to be different because they already said they're changing it. So,
But could he be a bust, though? What I'm saying is, if he goes out there and it doesn't work out for the first couple of series, they don't really get anything downfield. Maybe he doesn't even start to play the rest of the game. So you're using him as a tight end. I get it. Looking for quarterback points, you may not get any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk you take.
I think, Brian, if you could find a tight end who has the ball in his hand every snap, it's more beneficial than anything. He snaps. You have a tight end that literally snaps the ball every time. And he could pass it. He could run it. And you've already seen Taysom Hill is an effective player. Yep. So, I mean, he is a weapon. Listen, Taysom Hill's a great guy. He's overcome, some great adversity. And I don't, putting him on an accomplishment and a pedestal and giving him this start, I think people are too quick to bash Winston, even though Winston does deserve some kind of bashing, at times. But I think that's just a little bit overblown right now.
I'm muting myself between talking so you don't get the feedback from this guy's leaf blower.
If you did your own lawn, you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah, but then I have to do my own lawn. See, that's the thing. I don't really want to do that.
His hands don't work, Tony.
No, it's just my hands.
He's like Howie from Benchwarmers.
It'll be interesting to see which way that they go. Moving forward, this game's gonna be fascinating. We'll talk about it. Three teams that I think would be categorized as somewhat of surprises in the AFC, all at 6-3. They find themselves into Week 11. The Miami Dolphins, the Cleveland Browns, and the Las Vegas Raiders. So of these three teams, which are going to be fighting for that wild card spots for sure, they might even get into a division. I don't really know. Maybe the Dolphins of the bunch. But the question then becomes, which of these three teams do you think is the best setup for a run in a very difficult AFC?
I think it has to be the Miami Dolphins. You look at that defense, the way Tua has been playing since he got there. He's 3-0, hasn't turned the ball over, passer rating over 100, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Look, they asked Tua to come in, don't turn the ball over, make big plays when you need to. And they're a very well coached team. Brian Flores has done a fantastic job. And when they're able to run the ball, they're a team that's really tough to beat. Cleveland, I think the script is out on Cleveland. They're going to run the ball and try to keep the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands. It's a pretty obvious script of what they're trying to do. Las Vegas, I still don't buy them. Look, when you're playing in the same division as in like Cleveland with Pittsburgh and Baltimore, you're the third best team, and when you're Oakland or when you're Vegas, you're behind the Chiefs. So Miami is a team I think can win that division. They play in Week 17. It's probably going to come down to the division in that game. I think with the defense and the way Tua has been playing, they're for sure the team that's set up for the run.
Mike.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with Brandon. I think Miami is the one set up that could be ready to go. That defense has been playing really well, most of the year. Tua looks real good, looks real comfortable in there. They do have some, weapons. Their running game is a little bit of a rotation, but it's still working for them. The Browns, we thought the Browns would be this way on paper, the way they look, but they're still, to me, up and down team, and they're not really the consistent team to me. And the Raiders are pretty much, I think, I wouldn't say a totally balanced team, but Aguilar is having a good year, and Josh Jacobs is a monster. And I like Carr. I just think in overall scheme out of those three, I think Dolphins are set up for a good run because they're in a division that, frankly, they can win going away with actually, no, what am I saying? They have Buffalo in that division, but I mean, they can battle Buffalo for that spot. So, I mean, definitely, I think Miami's gone from the cellar to the penthouse and definitely have a shot to go far.
Look at this. Everybody's on my Miami bandwagon that I started 2 weeks ago, right, guys? Mm-hmm. Didn't I say this 2 weeks ago? Miami was going to be the team. You look at the schedule, you look at the defense that's flying around the ball, man. They're great. And Tua has done, in the first game, he did just enough not to lose the game. The defense have carried him. But now you see how he's kind of making plays and he's kind of winning. And if he wins today, he's going to be the first rookie quarterback since Big Ben Roethlisberger to start 4-0. So it's like it's a great story for him, the schedule, and it really sets up for a great run between Buffalo, who has a tough schedule coming up, and Miami, who has the opposite. So I really like Miami to take that division, and it's going to come down to that game is Week 17 in Buffalo, or I think it is it's in Miami. It's in Miami. So, nothing better than Miami in December. But listen, it's a great story for them, and it's wide open. And I bet Miami to win this division 6 months ago, or whenever we were able to put our prop bets in. So hopefully, I got a root and interest money wise, but I don't know about the Browns. I mean, Myles Garrett's out today. I think there's a lot of homerism, I guess, in the area saying Philly could win this game. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I don't know who's the third team that you had up there, bro?
Raiders.
The Raiders. The Raiders are the Raiders. Play hard. I think they surprising a little bit people with what they're doing, but I still think it's the Dolphins.
By the way, 63% chance of rain today in Cleveland.
Weather Mike. What's interesting though to me is it's funny that the guy who just showed up in Tua is getting a lot more, not credit, but a lot more confidence than a former number one overall pick in Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr, who's actually played pretty well this year, all things considered. Do you guys think though the Browns, the way they play, they're a little Titans-esque from last year, where they're really going to run the ball. They're not going to ask quarterback to do a whole hell of a lot, and that's how they're going to try to beat you. Not saying that they can do what that Titans team did, because I think their defense was a little better on Tennessee last year than what the Browns have right now. But it's a similar game plan. I give Stefanski a lot of credit. I mean, you remember before the season, I had no expectations for this Browns team. So at 6-3. Probably 7-3 by the end of the day. They're well ahead. They're where we thought they would be last year. Mike, you and I bought that Kool-Aid last year. We thought they were going to contend for their division. Clearly not. As we find themselves today on the Sunday at Week 11, they have a chance to get to 7 wins. And I think that I mean, that's a bit out of character.
Well, right process, but wrong team, Bry, because Stefanski was behind Minnesota, and so the offense that the Cleveland right now is running how Minnesota is running, and you see what Dalvin Cook is doing especially on a per game average. The parallel is definitely different there, definitely the same. And if you look at Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, both both mistake prone. I mean, give credit to Kirk Cousins last week getting his first win on Monday Night Football ever after 10 tries. But it is a good formula for success, and with Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, I mean that's a smart thing to do. You want to limit the mistakes that Baker Mayfield can do. So I think you're looking at at the proper formula for success is just how well they could execute down the stretch.
Question coming in from a new name, Andres Perez. Welcome to the show, sir. Peterson or Parker today? Standard.
I think it's easy. I think you go Parker. I mean, he's gonna get some volume today. Peterson, I think they've almost cemented that DeAndre Swift is the guy up there.
He's out. He's out
today, though. But,
oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
I still go Devontae Parker.
Adrian Peterson has a great matchup today against the Carolina Panthers. He's going to get 20-plus touches. It's going to be one of those things, just how effective he's going to be. Adrian Peterson had some really good games this year. I do like Devontae Parker as the number one in that matchup. I don't think anybody in the Denver secondary is going to be able to contain him. But it's just interesting and not sure the game plan that they're going to use. Detroit doesn't have any weapons really right now with Galladay out and everybody out. So Kerryon Johnson is going to be second back in that backfield. He didn't really get a glowing endorsement this week, from the coaching staff, which is kind of weird. So I'll take the guaranteed points with Adrian Peterson because it does look like the rest of your lineup is pretty solid. So I think Adrian Peterson as a flex position will give you more solid 10 to 15 point range and hopefully a touchdown.
Yeah, I would go Peterson by that much, just because, like you mentioned, Tony, the floor I think is a little higher there.
Right.
DeAndre Parker, the targets haven't quite seemed to be there with Tua really all year compared to last year for Devontae Parker. So I would go Peterson just because of the high floor.
Peterson's floor, I think that the ceiling is higher for Parker, but I think, again, because the rest of your team is so good, I don't think you really need to go batting for the fences. I think you just need a solid output from that 5 spot. So, no, I would agree with the group. Joe D'Angelo, Brown's doing better without OBJ. Well, and they're running the ball. They're controlling clock. Phil DeMora likes the Saints -3.5, Eagles +2.5. We will get to those games, actually. And I think the first one on the list is those Philadelphia Eagles, 3-5-1. They visit the 6-3 Cleveland Browns. Browns are laying 3 from what I saw this morning. So curious where that line was. But it is 3 as of DraftKings this morning. The Browns are very much a Jekyll and Hyde team offensively. It's either 30 plus or it's 10 or less. The Eagles have beaten the Browns 5 consecutive times. The last time the Browns beat the Eagles was with Bill Belichick, Week 11 of 1994. Brandon, listen, you want to call me a Wentz apologist? That's fine. I'll wear that. I think he's not their problem. But having said that, he is the only quarterback this year to have a sub-100 passer rating in each game. So, is he playing well? No. Can he play well? Sure, with some changes. But right now, I don't know how much confidence you can have in this team to beat anybody, especially a Cleveland Browns team, which seems to be hitting their stride.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to bet on the Cleveland Browns with great enthusiasm. I actually like the Eagles in this game just because every time I feel like I say the Eagles are going to lose this game and they stink, they end up winning because whenever their backs are against the wall, they have shown that they are going to win a game that they shouldn't win. I like them. I have them at +2.5. I like the Eagles at that number. I just don't buy Baker Mayfield. They don't have Myles Garrett, so the pass rush won't be there. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think the Eagles win by a point, 24-23, something like that, and they win because of some late magic. But I don't trust Baker Mayfield, and that's really the only reason why I'm going with the Eagles. And without a pass rush, I think the Eagles will be able to throw the ball a little bit and run the football needs to be the That needs to be the main focus for the Eagles, for both teams. I mean, the Eagles are the only team in the league throwing it as much as they do, and they average over 5 yards a carry. They've thrown it more than 500 times and average five yards a carry. The only team in the league who does that. They need to run it more, and I think they do today.
Now, Peterson did say in his press conference that in fact is what they need to do is run the ball more. I mean, he said that time and time again in the last couple of years. I mean, do you think today's the actual day that he does it?
We'll see. I think it's actually a good thing. We'll have less people in the ears of both Doug and Carson. Press Taylor and the wide receivers coach, who's actually done a pretty good job. But Press Taylor, he won't be there with a COVID situation. But I think the less people in Doug's ear and in Carson's ear is actually going to be a benefit for both. I think, Doug will be able to call, we'll see. This is Doug's offense today. I mean, it's totally on Doug. They have to run the ball more. Miles Sanders, they elevated Elijah Holyfield, the running back from Georgia, from the practice squad. He's more of a power back.
Son of?
Evander Holyfield?
Good guess. That's.
No, I had to think of the name. I knew it. I had to think of the name.
You had to think of a name you just said.
No,
But,
his name's Elijah.
It was in there somewhere.
the Holyfield was in there.
Yeah,
It was in there somewhere.
Yeah, but I like I said, I just like the Eagles because I do think they run the ball more, and I don't trust Baker Mayfield. I think he makes a mistake at some point that costs them.
On your trust factor, though, I mean, how much do you feel that Baker Mayfield is? You don't trust him, but I mean, compared to Carson Wentz, I mean, if from the scale of 1 to 10, I mean, my trust in both of these quarterbacks are probably about at a 2 right now. I mean, so are you trusting Baker more than Wentz? I guess that's what you're saying.
I'm trusting Doug and Carson more than I'm trusting Stefanski and Baker. Yeah.
Well, one team's 6-3, and the other team just lost to the New York Giants. So I don't know if that's a good good place to hang your hat. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of people that like the Eagles in this game, not just locally, nationally. I don't think that that's a very smart situation. I mean, this isn't a game I'm not betting on, except I do like the over. If I had to take this game, I would touch the over a little bit. But I mean, Nick Chubb, it just makes a big difference in that Cleveland offense. I think people kind of see how Kareem Hunt does, a good job as far as a backup there as well, and they kind of discount Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb is the difference maker in this game. I think Baker makes a couple less mistakes. Austin Hooper probably, or Njoku, or whoever they have at tight end spot has probably a big catch here or there. I don't think the Eagles get it done today. I'll take the Browns.
Tony, to your point, the Browns are scoring 6 more points a game and rushing for 110 more yards per game with Chubb in the lineup. I mean, it's significant. So, I mean, that does make a difference. Mike, I know you don't like Baker at all.
Not a big Baker fan, but I will say real quick, I just got an alert that actually they were thinking about activating Bridgewater, but he is now listed as out again. So Walker is starting for Carolina. But anyway.
He's active, but he's not playing.
Okay.
So it
doesn't make any sense making him active. He's not going to play, but whatever. So it is what it is. So yeah, not a big Baker fan, but in this situation, I'm gonna side with Tony on this. I mean, the Eagles defensively, I think are going to be on the field a ton today. I think the Cleveland Browns with Chubb, they're going to run the ball a lot. They do have Njoku, things like that. I just don't have any faith in the Eagles. I mean, Peterson's play calling has been terrible lately, and Carson Wentz really hasn't done that much to give me a lot of confidence that he can turn this ship around in the right direction. They do have Miles Sanders, and they do have a few wide receivers that may make some plays and everything like that. But I think in the end, even with the rain factor, and if it comes down to it, I'm going to give it to the Browns. I think the Browns can get it done today, not by a whole heck of a lot, but I'll take the Browns and lay to 3 points. I think I have a little bit more confidence, not much, but a little bit more confidence in the Browns today than the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't love it either. I mean, I don't love it either.
The thing is, though, if what Brandon was saying, if that was actually true, I would lean Eagles because I really do like what they could do against utilizing Myers Sanders. But I don't think it's true.
What you don't think they're going to actually?
I don't think they'll commit to run. I don't think they'll. I think they'll eventually go into the same offense you've been seeing the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think I agree, Tony. I think Peterson thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and until that mindset goes out of his head, they're going to do the same old thing that he wants them to do.
When you look back at even since 2016, since Doug and Carson have gotten here, when they've had the most success, it's been when they've run the football. Even back in 2017, they had the high-powered offense, but they were number 2 in the NFL in rushing. So, I mean, they need to get back to that. I've been calling for that for 3 years now. They just don't do it enough. But
Have they done that since Frank Wright left?
no.
Wonder why that is.
Yeah.
What a guess. What a guess. I pulled that one out. What a guess that was.
I think actually it was Joe D'Angelo. Did we Eagles +3 or Saints +3.5? We're gonna get to the Saints game next.
I would say Saints +3.5.
Reserve your thoughts on that one. It's a good question. Saints aren't +3. Saints are minus.
It's -3.5. It's probably just a typo.
Yeah, tease. Yeah, it's a tease.
You want? No, I don't think it is. I think he just.
It's just a typo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, those NFC South games are crazy. All kinds of stupid stuff happens in those games. Joe D'Angelo play all AFC teams. NFC's not. I mean, other than the top end of it, yeah. So again, we mentioned we're with this up next. The 3-6 Falcons visit the 7-2 Saints, but they're not your daddy Saints. Saints -3.5, over under 49.5. Alvin Kamara has 0 career touchdowns in 6 career games against the Falcons. Atlanta's won 3 of 4 since firing Dan Quinn. They are scoring the 5th most points in the league at 30.3. And as we've mentioned ad nauseum, Taysom Hill gets the start. We'll see if he finishes. I have no idea what to expect in this game. I think this is going to be a situation where the Saints defense better show up and Kamara better actually break the schneid against the Saints team, against the Falcons team. They're going to get on the end zone here. I don't know what to expect from Hill. I really don't. I don't even know that the Falcons know what to expect from Hill. So I guess the unknown is real, but the Falcons are, I mean, both of these teams are semi-hot right now. The Saints a little bit hotter, but that's with Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees off the field. Taysom Hill's not Teddy Bridgewater. I think it'd be a fool's game to think that that there's going to be the continuity that we saw last year when Brees got hurt.
Yeah, and no Marshawn Lattimore for this New Orleans Saints, I think, is a real story. You have no Lattimore, who's probably your best defensive player, no Drew Brees, who's probably your best offensive player, most important is your quarterback. The way Atlanta has been playing, I was leaning Saints initially. I think I'm going Atlanta, certainly with the +3.5. I don't think the Saints are going to be able to score like they have been with Brees. I think Atlanta's going to score. Julio Jones, I believe Calvin Ridley's playing as well. Yeah. Atlanta's going to put up 30 points. Can the Saints get to 30 points? I don't know with Taysom Hill. I believe it when I see it. I'll take the Atlanta Falcons today and the 3.5 points.
Mike. Oh, well, we're going with Tony. I'd say the same thing, Brandon. I like Atlanta too today. I think Atlanta can put up some points, especially without Lattimore there. I mean, you got Julio, Ridley, you got some weapons, and Atlanta's been putting up some points lately. The Saints team, it's not going to be the same old Saints team, especially without Drew Brees in the lineup. I mean, you do have Kamara there, and you do have Michael Thomas, but is Hill going to have that continuity with them? Only getting first string reps this week with them, so. You're going to see if the game flows and he can get into the rhythm. Maybe they can score some points. 14, maybe 17 points. I just think Atlanta is going to have a lot of success today. I'll take Atlanta and the 3 points.
All right, I'm
over two, by the way.
I'm doing the old fade Galetta, and I'll take the Saints. Listen, I think you guys are putting a little bit too much stock into the continuity aspect of it. I think Sean Payton is going with Taysom Hill because of the continuity. Taysom Hill's run packages for the last 2 years. I think that is a little bit more. I think if you put Winston in there and you try to run, certain things, then I think that's when you'd have a bigger continuity thing. I think. Listen, this is going to be an interesting game, man. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Julio Jones should absolutely have a monster game, but. As we expect the Falcons to put up points, and they're doing a really good job behind Raheem Morris. I look, I say, 1-3 the last 4, 30 points per game. You have to love that. But the Saints defense, I mean, they held Tampa Bay to 3 points. They schemed very well against them. And I think last week they played a little Giants style San Francisco 49ers team and held them to 13 points. So that's 16 points in the last 2 games. If New Orleans could effectively run the ball, Kamara is going to score today. The 6 career games versus Atlanta, no touchdowns. That's just a fluke because they weren't playing good Atlanta teams, and they could have touchdowns every which way they wanted in Saints. So I think Kamara holds the offense together, and I'll take the Saints. I I mean, I'm not betting on it, but I'd lay the 3. I wouldn't lay 3.5. You'd have to buy the hook if you're not an idiot. But I'll take Saints -3. You know, I'm interested to see what Sean Payton and Taysom Hill could do together.
Tony, do you like the over at all?
If I was going to bet the over-under, I would. But if I'm New Orleans, the game plan would be to try to not make this a track meet, because Atlanta should win a track meet against them. But I don't know if that'll be the case. So I would not touch the game over-under, but I would do over 49 if I had to bet it.
I just think it's going to be tough for the Saints. I think we all believe that the Falcons are going to be around the 28 to 30 point range, right? I mean, I think we all believe that. I just think it's going to be tough for the Saints to not only beat them, but to beat them by 4. And I know, like Tony, you mentioned the continuity thing, which is kind of what I mentioned, why I think they went with Hill in the first place. But I just think it's going to be difficult for them to get in the 31 to 33 point range. To not only win, but to cover. I just think that's going to be tough.
Yeah, ball control will be their friend. Brian sounds great, doesn't he?
I muted myself. Sorry, I forgot. The Saints have held opponents under 25 points in 4 straight games, second longest active streak in the NFL. Again, they're gonna have their problems doing that with Atlanta. Without Lattimore in the matchup, and I think that matters because again, with the weapons that Atlanta has on the outside, Lattimore on somebody at least helps you because it doesn't. The best you can do is kind of take one guy out. Yeah, they got other guys to throw to. I mean, Julio, Ridley, and Gage and everybody else. But at least if you could take one guy out of the equation, it's helpful. Without Lattimore, I think they're going to struggle with that. Tough game.
The thing with Ridley coming back, bro, I don't know if you heard, was that their comments about he is active but banged up. So
okay.
He's going to play. So Calvin Ridley, kind of, I don't know if they were planning on using him as a decoy or what their game plan was, but I mean, I'd be interested to see and be a little wary of him in fantasy.
Maybe Julio gets in the end zone. Maybe it's unusual, but maybe it'll happen.
Are you asking a lot at that point?
Yeah, I think we're asking a lot there.
I just don't see with Hill at the quarterback. You see the Saints win by a touchdown. I don't see that. Like Brandon said, it's going to be. I think it's a closely fought game, and like Tony said, if you got to buy the hook if you're going to take the Saints, I wouldn't 3.5. I think that's a lose. It's going to be a close game, field goal game. I think
24-21 Saints.
A game which has the number 1 and number 2 overall picks from this most recent draft. The 2-6-1 Bengals visit the 2-7 Washington football team. Washington's laying 1.5. The over-under is 47. Since the merger in 1970, number 1 picks are 7-14 in their rookie seasons against the number 2 pick from the same class. Defensively, Washington is allowing the fewest passing yards in the league, 194.7 per game. What do you think, Mike, Joe Burrow is going to be able to do against a team that's really actually doing well defensively? And I don't think that you would really think that by their 2-7 record.
Well, they throw the ball a ton, Cincinnati. I mean, the most in the league right now. And I think Joe Burrow is getting better every week. And yes, even though Washington is probably one of the better defending teams in the league about passing, I think Joe Burrow is going to get it done today. I mean, he's got a bunch of weapons from A.J. Green to T. Higgins having a phenomenal year to Tyler Boyd. He's got a lot of guys out there you could throw to. And I know that they're playing well in the pass defense, but I think with that many guys and a decent running back, well, solid running back in Mixon, and then you got Giovanni Bernard. Well, Giovanni Bernard, I was going to say that. I think he's fine back there. I think Cincinnati gets it done today. I'm not sold on Washington. Even though they've had a couple of nice games in the last couple of weeks, I like Cincinnati today. I think they get another win today. I think Joe Burrow starts, keeps that trend going in the right direction. I think Cincinnati wins the game.
I don't know if that pass defense is still holding up as we might expect. I mean, they in the last 2 weeks they've lost, and they lost the quarterbacks Danny Dimes and Matt Stafford. And Matt Stafford lit them up last week, and Washington came with a nice offensive performance. You got to give Alex Smith. I think he threw for over 350 yards last week. I mean, a little bit of shocking events. I do think this game is going to have some points to it. Burrow and that offense, you have to love what the young kid's done. He's Chase Young on the other side is going to be coming after him hot. The loss of Joe Mixon is a bigger loss than people kind of really expect. But Gio Bernard is a decent backup. McKissick, Terry McLaurin, I think they get it done today for Washington. I'm going to say Washington wins a close one. I mean, the spread's only 1.5, so that kind of leads you to what everybody's thinking. I think this is the time where Alex Smith kind of breaks through and you show a little bit of magic that he has.
Yeah, I like Washington too because of the defense and because of they have some weapons over there in Washington with McKissick and Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, who's really an underrated wide receiver. Alex Smith playing well, not going to turn the football over. The Bengals, they just don't run the ball enough. They don't do it well enough. They don't do it enough at all. It's kind of like the Eagles. They rely on Joe Burrow to throw a lot. And I think against this Washington pass defense, I think he's going to struggle a little bit today. I like the Redskins in a lower scoring game. I would say something like a 20-17 type game where Washington pulls it out.
But Brandon, do you think they don't run the ball? Well, two reasons. One, Mixon's been banged up for a little while here. I haven't really seen him at least be optimal. He hasn't really played. But their offensive line is a problem, right? So,
well, for sure.
Yeah, like do you think that they're just like kind of riding the hot hand? Burrow's been so good to start. T. Higgins has had just a phenomenal rookie year, more above anybody who what you thought was going to end up happening for him. I mean, that's to me right now. That's obviously the strength of their offense. Or are they just kind of leaning on what's working?
Well, you got to have time to throw the football, and we've seen that Washington pass rush, and with Chase Young and Jonathan Allen and Kerrigan and those guys. So I just think it's going to be tough for Joe Burrow to consistently sit back there and throw 40 times and pick this defense apart. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Mike?
I already went. Brian, too.
Well, in that case, I believe Bengals outright. I'll trust in Joe Burrow. I'm going to go against the 7-14 trend because I don't think I think if they had to do over, and Ron Rivera said this, they would have taken Burrow had Young gone one. I mean, I guess that's kind of obvious, but they probably still should have taken a quarterback though. And I said that at the time that it made some sense for them to trade down from 2 to 3, maybe even further, and go get their quarterback of the future because they had to have known Haskins did not work out. Haskins, what I would say is, and I'm a critic of the whole Arizona taking Kyler Murray thing a year after taking Josh Rosen because, again, they traded up for him. And I felt that Josh Rosen's issues were not entirely Josh Rosen. It was just a bad situation with a bad coaching staff, which never gave him a shot. His career is now forever destroyed. But I think that if you had any sort of relevant coaching there, they're not even in position to go take Kyler Murray. So there's a lot of things that went wrong there. I just think Dwayne Haskins stinks. I thought he stunk in college. I thought he was going to stink in the NFL the minute he was drafted. I never got that feeling with Josh Rosen. So
he didn't stink in college. He threw 50 touchdowns.
Yes.
In 1 year. I mean, there Haskins didn't stink in college, but he did have his critics. Josh Rosen, I wouldn't throw the man's career. I wouldn't throw the man's career away. He did a smart thing and signed with Tampa Bay and is learning behind Tom Brady. So, I mean, I think, Josh Rosen is kind of another level intellect that you don't really see in the NFL too much. And I think he did a smart thing. As far as Ron Rivera and them getting a quarterback, absolutely. But that was an owner's pick. It wasn't a football mind pick. So that's why they weren't able to get that quarterback. And the worst thing that can happen to Chase Young right now, and you can't really blame Ron Rivera because it's not his situation, but is the success of Herbert and the success of Tua. You throw Joe Burrow out because they didn't have an option to get him, but pass on Herbert, pass on Tua because you had Dwayne fucking Haskins. That's the problem.
Does it matter if you get Justin Fields? I mean, he could be the consolation prize. You could say you get both. You get Fields and you get Chase Young. If you're patient, you wait an extra year, you end up with both. I mean, could that have been the plan?
No. Brandon, you talk about that, throwing 50 touchdowns in 1 year. Mitch Trubisky had a great last year at North Carolina, too. How'd that work out?
He was nowhere close.
Nowhere close. 50, but I'm just saying he had a great senior year, too. How'd that make out?
Well, it's Achilles Smith syndrome. These guys have one great year. And listen, we're bashing Haskins. You're just bashing Trubisky. But on the other hand, Joe Burrow had one great year.
Yeah, the Trubisky year wasn't even close. It wasn't even on par with Haskins or Burrow. It wasn't even close.
But see, Brandon, you have to also look at the overall team strength too. You know, I mean, you got a kid, you know, like look at this year right now. Like Justin Fields had a horrible game last night. Horrible game. Spencer Rattler, who is another young prospect for Oklahoma. The kid's fucking horrible at times, but he's playing in Oklahoma, and they're out there friggin' putting up almost 60 points a game. They didn't put 60 points this week, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Mac Jones at Alabama this year.
Yeah, so you have to kind of see like what the opponent is and the quality, everything like that. Trubisky did it at a Carolina team, which was putting up some numbers, but they weren't as powerful as like Ohio State. So it's kind of hard to see these real strong programs like Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, and their quarterback.
You can even throw Trask. Is it Trask? You can even throw him in there from Florida.
Throw him in this front where?
Well, it's one of the quarterbacks, you know, that's having a good year. So.
Well, Trask is developing, and Florida's having a good year because Trask is a friggin' stud.
Yeah,
Florida's
been good. Florida's been good for a long time.
So.
I can't believe you had the balls to wear a Florida State friggin' shirt on this program today after the fucking embarrassment that they did yesterday in refusing to play Clemson. I'd burn it.
I'm a diehard Florida State fan from way back, so they're not having a good year. They stink right now, so they're lucky they didn't play Clemson yesterday.
So you weasel out of playing Clemson?
I don't agree with it. They probably should have played.
You know what? Listen, for all the negatives about Bobby Bowden, that Florida State program has just been a friggin' joke for.
Well, Norville's got to get some time there. I think in a couple of years, I think they'll be back better than they are. But he's got to get these guys in there and get back to what they were. So
they refused to play. They refused to play the game because they thought that that a lineman might contaminate the rest of the team or something like that.
Then they're wrong.
He's a friggin' move. Nick Saban doesn't do it. Nobody does it.
I agree. They should have played.
They need Jameis back to eat some W's and steal some crab legs and maybe yell some things on cafeteria tables and seem to work.
Last point on this Washington Cincinnati game. So you mentioned Terry McLaurin, Tony. He is on pace to be the first receiver for Washington to finish top 5 in yards since Santana Moss in 2005. It's been a bit of a dry spell. The Detroit Lions are 4-5. I left them for dead a couple weeks ago, so egg on my face. They visited 3-7 Carolina Panthers. Panthers are laying 1 in this game. Last I checked, I'm not sure if that line has changed because of the issues at quarterback. Bridgewater now, you're right, Mike, is inactive. They changed that report, so he's not going to play at all.
Detroit -3.
Detroit's -3, so there you go. Let me update that.
That was a pick-em as of about 30 minutes ago prior to the announcement, which seems like Detroit is every single week. No one has any idea what you're going to get from them last week against Washington.
But the other thing too is like there was the questions about Teddy Bridgewater. There was big questions about Matt Stafford too. It was assumed that he would play. It was assumed that Bridgewater would play. So Stafford is playing. Bridgewater is not playing. So I mean that's where and nothing really affects the line more than quarterback.
Yeah.
Hey,
even with Galladay and Amendola out, it didn't really seem to matter.
Elliott Shore Parks tweeted a poll. Are you excited for the Eagles game today? What percentage said yes?
36%.
36, Mike?
I would go around there. Probably I'll say 40.
43.
These guys suck. I mean, what kind of question is that though?
Well, here's the thing, Brandon. Brandon's a little bit too young to kind of remember back in the day. Back in the day, all you had was locally was the ESPN. I mean, not ESPN. Was your local media market for Philadelphia? It was Negadelphia. It was trash people like Howard Eskin and other dirtbags that are on the air. So yeah, Andrew Cataldi doesn't know shit about sports. He's a freaking cartoon character, right? So you got these guys that are just for years and years and years before the internet and internet radio and stuff came out, just spewing nonsense into the ears of the Philadelphia fans. And they just became Negadelphia. And something that Elliott Shore Parks just tweets out like that. And I could like no one said that they were excited for the game. Dude, I got my Cowboys gear on. Minnesota plays at 4:00. I don't expect Cowboys to do great, whatever, but I'm excited to watch a fucking football game. The problem with this area and the fans is they were just spewed by clowns like Elliott Shore Parks, well, way before him, to just be negative. So thankfully, early on in my life, I was able to go out there and search for internet radio and other aspects of finding, USA Today and stuff like that. So I could get the whole process of actually what's going on and not just the myopic viewpoint of the Negadelphia fans and their media. It's absolutely a joke.
I don't disagree. And WIP and Philadelphia sports radio in general has just been terrible for my entire life.
Listen,
I listen to it as a joke because that's what it is. I mean, it's a joke to me. And you have guys like Elliot Shore Parks who tweet out this stuff just to get a reaction from people and get them pissed off. And it's annoying. And
Brian's cringing right now because we'll never get another one of them guys on our show again.
I don't think they're gonna miss this clip. I'll put it that way.
And I'm sure it's not an accident that I'm not on when them guys are on either. So I mean, me and Jake, me and your boy Fitz have a little bit of history when I talked to him a few months ago about the Marvin Harrison situation. That guys don't have any balls. Let's put it that way.
Carolina has lost 5 straight for the 3rd straight year, one of 5 teams to do so. And for Detroit, DeAndre Swift will not play. How big of a loss is Swift in this game, given the fact that now on the other side of the ball, it's not even Teddy Bridgewater?
I don't know how big of a loss it is. I mean, he's been playing fantastic, but I mean, Adrian Peterson's a guy who seems to be an ageless wonder when he gets his opportunities. I think that the more important losses would be the wide receivers. I mean, there's just no one now for Stafford to throw to outside of Hawkinson. Is Marvin Jones playing?
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Brandon. So I have a decision to make in a league where I need to put up a lot of points today, and my decision is between Ronald Jones and TJ Hawkinson in a flex. And right now I am leaning Hawkinson for the simple fact that there's nobody else to ball, pure volume play, and Jones coming off that huge game last week. I think there's obviously some regression.
Well, let's skew that a little bit because he had a huge run. Yeah, you have one run for 98 yards. That kind of skews everything a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want to run Ronald Jones into Aaron Donald, be my guest. But T.J. Hawkinson is the number 1 receiver. Number 1 tight end option in fantasy this week for good reason. He should be. So I would go Hawkinson.
Yeah, I'd go Hawkinson as well. I mean, you mentioned it, Jones running into Aaron Donald. I'd be more inclined to go with Fournette, who's the receiving option in that backfield.
I have them both. I prefer not to start Leonard Fournette.
Real quick, Brian, put up the D'Angelo's comment here that those first place Eagles. Obviously, he was referring to what we were talking about. Was saying that, and listen, you're right. Those first place Eagles. So if they're the first place Eagles, why is only 40% of the fan base excited for the friggin' game? Especially a team like the Eagles who won their only Super Bowl in the most improbable fashion. Where's your hope? Where's your underdog? Where's you put on your dog pound mask and all that other bullshit you guys were doing a few years ago? You know what I'm saying?
A, hope is not a strategy, but B, we had Tom Arnone on Tuesday with us from A2D Radio, who's as big an Eagles guy as you're going to find, and he's like there's no juice here because Tony, you can't tell me right now, and it's not the same exact scenario. You can't tell me right now that if the Cowboys found a way to win this division at 6-10. That you're going to get, juiced up for a playoff game where they're going to get their dicks kicked in.
You're absolutely right, but at the same time, I'd be excited for that playoff game. I'd be anxious for that playoff game. And hope is not a strategy. And as we break down as far as analytics and everything, you want to look into the matchups and how we're talking about the games right now. NFL, no fucking logic. Nick Foles took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. There should be some sort of hope for them, right? In every game, there should be some sort of hope. Eagles are not in a situation where they're tanking. They would, if the Eagles lost every single game this year going out, they still wouldn't have a top 2 pick, I believe. So you're talking about be excited for your team at least. You know what I'm saying? And this isn't new, Brian. Going throughout history, when you're talking about the Eagles versus Cowboys, and you're talking about the rivalries in the NFC East with the Giants and everybody else, listen. For this area, I want the Eagles to win and be competitive because people watch the games. I don't have to hear these fair weather Eagles fans jump on and off the bandwagon as they call Cowboys fans cockroaches and everything like that, which is it's friggin' laughable. I'm sure you have a couple of Eagles fans out in your yard right now doing the leaves because they don't even care about watching the game. That's what it is. What are you doing Sunday for the game?
Do you want to hear a funny story that you bring that up? Just because we're on this tangent. So I promised my wife, she gets 2 of these Sundays during football Like I will miss the early games and go do something because I usually I take over Sundays. I got the pack. I sit here like a bump on a log and do absolutely nothing. So last Sunday the Cowboys weren't playing. You want to go out? Let's go out, right? So we were out, whatever. We happened to be walking into a Target in the middle of the Eagles game, and two people walking out with Eagles jerseys on. I'm like, why? My wife's like, I never understood that why they'd wear their jersey and they're not watching the game.
Because they're frauds. I did the same thing. I went after we did the show last week. I went to my buddy's house. Yeah, he's an Eagles fan. You know, his dad's their Eagles fan. I stopped at Bagley Annie's, great Italian market here in Hamilton. Phenomenal food, phenomenal everything. I go in there. There's the same thing. Three people who should be watching the Eagles game aren't watching the Eagles game, want to talk about the Eagles game, but aren't even watching the game. Frauds. They want to jump on the bandwagon. They want to celebrate in the parade, hopefully, and they want to eat worse shit afterwards.
It's ironic for a tar to be talking about not watching games.
Why?
You don't watch games.
What's there to watch?
He just said he watches every game like a bump on the log, Brandon.
He watches Red Zone.
I watch Red Zone because I have a lot of money involved in fantasy and everything else, and that's a little bit more exciting than watching Andy Dalton or anybody else right now.
So, well, Red Zone's first of all, Red Zone's a phenomenal product. I mean, how can you say anything negative about Red Zone?
I pay $400 a year to watch Red Zone.
It's phenomenal. I sit there with depending on what game's on. I mean,
Tony, do you watch the Cowboys game?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's my point.
You watch it from beginning to end, and I have.
Now I won't watch Cowboys.
You watch the Cowboys game. Others
I watch every snap
because they don't want to watch the Cowboys.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's 2020. Okay, I have 7 devices in my place where I could watch the games. Correct. So I have the Cowboys game on the big screen. I have Red Zone on the other screen, and then you have your phone and you have your laptop. I mean, listen, we're watching games here, baby. We're watching Red Zone. We're watching everything. There's not a touchdown I don't miss. See, here's the other thing too. My fantasy football league, because fuck this waivers and bidding process. It's first come, first serve, 24/7 ad drops. So if I see DeAndre Swift get his head taken off or whatever, and I want to pick somebody up, I pick him up then and there. So if you're not watching a game, if you're not on top of your shit, you're going to get left behind. There's not like, oh, we'll wait till Tuesday. We'll give everybody a fair shot at somebody. No. If you know what I'm saying, if Justin Jefferson snaps his neck, and you want to get his back up, then hey, you better hurry up and do it. And that's just how it is.
So
sounds like a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
Carolina, Detroit, guys, make your picks.
I like Detroit.
They're playing 3 now with the updated line.
I like Detroit. They're playing well.
You know what? PJ Walker's such a great story. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with him. I mean, you come from that cesspool in Philadelphia, Temple University, and then you go into the AAFL or whatever the hell he was in.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think he was playing street ball at Susquehanna Avenue too at some point. But listen, he's a great story. I would love to pick Carolina, but I can't. I mean, Matt Stafford, he's still a quality NFL quarterback. They have enough weapons in Marvin Jones, Adrian Peterson. I'll take Carolina. I'll lay the 3.
Mike?
Yeah, I'll take Detroit as well. I think ever since me and Brian on our show talked about the next game Matt Patricia loses is going to be firing, he's rattled off 3 in a row. So, who knows when that's going to end. And I think he keeps the trend going here. I like Stafford. I like still what Detroit has. They're a little better than Carolina, especially I'm not big on Walker. So, I'll take Detroit. I'll lay the points.
No McCaffrey. It's still going to be tough for the Carolina Panthers to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot to like right now in Carolina. On the other side of the ball, Pittsburgh's 9-0. They're going to be 10-0 at the end of the day. The question is, do they cover 10.5? They go to the 1-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. 46.5 is the over/under. This is the 3rd game ever between a team on a 9+ game winning streak and a team on an 8+ game losing streak. In the other 2, the winner won by 15 or more. Bodes well for the line. Last week, we said Green Bay was going to blow the doors off of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, it's 13.5. Make sure you buy the point, get it down to 13, 14 down to 13.5. And then they only lost by 4 points. They actually were winning at points in that game. Do you have any PTSD from that? Because I really don't see I don't know.
Well, what can Jacksonville do that was hurtful to Green Bay? That's run the football, right? Every team that can run the football has a shot to keep it close against Green Bay. I mean, we've seen that. Jacksonville running the football against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Completely different story. Lay the 10 by the hook. Pay that little extra juice because when you lose that 10, when you lose that, when Pittsburgh beats them, 30-20 or 27-17 or whatever, you don't want to cry about it. So by the hook, take Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I think historically, if you look against Jacksonville, at Jacksonville, it's been a little bit of a rocky situation, and they haven't been the best road team as far as covering. But they should beat Jacksonville. Jake Luton, I think, has played mistake-free football for the most part. I think this is where the wheels come off a little bit, and I think Steelers handle him, and Luton, kind of shows where he is as a rookie quarterback.
If I recall, the last time these two teams faced off was in the AFC divisional round just a few years ago, 2017, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe, put up 48 points and won that game, like 48-45. That's not going to happen.
Who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback for that Jacksonville team?
That was Blake Bortles.
Hear that, Brian?
That's not going to happen. Like you mentioned, Tony, they're not going to be able to run the football against the Steelers defense. Big Ben's playing MVP caliber level football so far this year. 22 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, which is really uncharacteristic for Ben. He's not turning the football over. He's been playing fantastic. 3 great receivers, a good tight end. They can get James Conner going. I think that's going to be part of the plan today. I like the Steelers. I like them to roll in this game. I would not have taken Green Bay last week. I actually bet on Jacksonville last week, but the plus 13.5. So I did well there. But this week I like Steelers with the points.
I actually not like the Steelers going down to a Jacksonville team with a rookie quarterback still in there. Although he's played decently, this is a defense he hasn't faced before, where they have Minka Fitzpatrick just waiting for stuff to get thrown his way. I like Pittsburgh as well today. Minka Fitzpatrick. I always got to get Minka in there. I do like Pittsburgh with the 10.5. I just think they tear Jacksonville apart today. Although in my league, I ask you guys, do you start Roethlisberger or do you start Tom Brady this week? I'm going to start Roethlisberger just because I think Brady's got a real tough matchup with the Rams.
I would start Roethlisberger. Yeah, I mean I think
Roethlisberger is definitely a start because let's not forget Pittsburgh hasn't ran the ball well at all recently, and they've been. I
think I have James Robinson too. I was a little leery on starting him, but I'm going to start him as well because he's hot. He probably gets a touchdown maybe late in the game, garbage touchdown somewhere, but. I think he gets volume today.
Yeah, your hope there would be that he catches some passes out of the backfield, down a few points.
But the hope is Jacksonville. If you're a Jacksonville fan, if there is such a thing, that you run the ball, you control the clock. James Robinson gets touches, but I don't see that to be a reality. I mean, if you look to see what Gary Gilbert did against them and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that would be the game plan that you have as far as Jacksonville coming in versus Pittsburgh. So look at them to try to do that, but it's not going to be successful. Big Ben should rip them up.
Tony, I got some breaking basketball news for you. Donovan Mitchell has agreed to a 5-year, $195 million designated rookie max extension with the Jazz.
Wow! Bang!
I mean, that's pretty much what you need to do. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a good one-way player. He'll never be a star on the championship team, but in this day and age. I mean, plus, you have to pay these guys that much money to live in Utah. I mean, how would you like to go to Utah and play every day and with half the fans that are a bunch of friggin' racists who put epithets out there, during the games, and you're sitting there, doing it. So, I mean, plus you got to get that little extra bump up bonus to put to play with COVID boy Rudy Gobert. So, I mean, that's another thing, but. Listen, Mitchell's an exciting player. He's fun to watch at times. Just don't watch him play defense, and don't expect too many jump shots to go in.
Hey, Brian, I will mention we do have breaking news when you get a chance.
I will break that news right after we get done here. But I got a point for you. You're asking me about Ben versus Brady. Jacksonville's allowing the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah,
you might want to get Ben in there.
Yeah, and Jalen Ramsey, who would be playing for Jacksonville, is now playing against Tom Brady for the Rams. So, I would steer clear.
Yeah, so Dan lies in statistics, right? Chase Claypool has 9 total touchdowns in 9 career games. Only Hall of Famer Jim Brown has a higher touchdown per game average at a minimum of 9 games. Because he had
4 touchdowns in 1 game, though.
That's why.
I was against the Eagles.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, numbers lie a little bit. I mean, there was a top 10. top 10 rookie list that got some heat with Claypool on Twitter this week with Claypool not being on it, but Justin Jefferson was, and I could see it, but Claypool is just not that huge part of the offense as down the stretch now that they have Deontay Johnson back, Juju Smith-Schuster, them guys. I mean, Claypool's having a great rookie year. You have to be happy with it, but let's pump our brakes a little bit on that 1-4 touchdown game against the Philadelphia team.
Mike, you want the siren?
Sure.
We have breaking news here on the Sports Box.
In my in-depth analysis and keeping track of it, there is now 100% chance of rain for the Cleveland-Philadelphia game today. So if you're betting the game, just know it's going to rain the entire game. So.
That bodes well for Cleveland, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, run.
You got a power
runner number is going to keep going down now. So
this is an interesting game, guys. Tennessee, Baltimore, both 6-3. Ravens are laying 6 in this game. Over-unders 50.5. A rematch of the game that took the Ravens out in the playoffs last year, where they were pretty much non-competitive from the jump at home against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, a 76.5% red zone touchdown percent this year, second highest, going up against Baltimore, who's allowing a touchdown on roughly the same percentage of red zone drives, which is the highest in the league. Bodes well for Derrick Henry. Tony, before the year, there were people who thought the Ravens could go 16-0. Colin Cowherd, number one of those guys. They lost last week in New England, who stinks.
I mean, listen, we had some fun with that New England-Baltimore pick last week. I mean, you thought Baltimore was going to run away with that defense, but I'll tell you right now, you have to give New England credit for running the ball strong. The craziest part of that game is Brad, since Brandon said you don't watch games, I'm sure you didn't see it, but Brandon probably watched, is that when Baltimore had the ball for the very last possession, the game, to go down and drive, the literal monsoon that was all year, it was raining the hardest it was all game on their last drive, which is completely hysterical, figuring that Bill Belichick probably had some way of doing that. I mean, what did he bring over, Woodard air helicopters to just dump rain? And it was just, I mean, listen, they couldn't catch the ball to save their lives. I mean, they were dropped at left and right. They didn't run the ball, and New England did the good thing and beat them up as far as running at them. Now you have the Tennessee Titans, who is even a better running team than New England. Although New England's offensive line blocked phenomenal. So we'll see with Tennessee if they could establish the run against Baltimore, because that triggers the rest of their offense. I don't like A.J. Brown against this Baltimore secondary though. They're Marlon Humphreys and Peters. I mean, they're just almost too good. So I think that the Tennessee Titans defense that is a little might be a little bit overrated, it seems now, since we're 10 games into the season or 10 weeks into the season. I think that you're going to see Baltimore have some more success than they have had in the past and be able to open up their offensive game plan a little bit. And I think Baltimore takes this game. 6 points, I think, is a little high, because I could see this being a 27-30 game, field goal wins at the end kind of deal. But I'll take Baltimore to definitely take the win.
Yeah, I like Baltimore as well and to cover. I just don't trust that Tennessee defense. It's been really bad all year. Jadeveon Clowney, which is really their only pass rush threat, guy who can get after the quarterback and plays the run really well. He's out this week, so that's a big blow for their defense. I think the Baltimore is going to play well, bounce back. The concern here is the script is out on the Baltimore Ravens. If they fall behind in a game, they're not going to come back and win. They're just not. And the script is out. It's not going to happen. So if Tennessee is able to control the clock early, get a lead with Derrick Henry, use the play action with Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown, you could see Tennessee, pull the upset. I just don't see that happening, like Tony said, against that secondary. I like the Ravens. I think they bounce back. Lamar plays well, runs around, and makes enough plays to win.
Tennessee started off hot, 5-0. They're scoring 33 points a game. 1-3 in their last 4, scoring just 21. Their yards per game are down 100 yards. Their passing yards are down roughly 100 yards. I mean, it's a very, very different team, Mike. And I know what you say about Lamar Jackson, and Brandon, you said it too. He has a sub 100 passer rating in 5 straight games. That's the longest streak of his career. So you're right. If they're down, they don't really have a way to come back.
I think it's going to be a closer game than people think it's going to. I like Tennessee in this game with the 6. I just think that Tennessee is a little bit underappreciated. I mean, they're a run-first team with Derrick Henry, and they do have some guys out there like A.J. Brown and things like that. I think they can get it done. I think they got to slow Baltimore down. The game plan's out on Baltimore, how to slow them down, and they just got to follow through with it. Although I think it's going to be a kind of a back-and-forth game, like the over a little bit in this game, believe it or not, but I think that Tennessee can keep it close, and they even win the game if they could. But I like Tennessee in the 6. I'll take Tennessee.
Under Harbaugh, Baltimore 5-1, including the playoffs, versus teams they lost to the previous playoff year. They did lose to Tennessee last year. Baltimore's going to win this game, but I think the 6 is high. I think the 6 is high for a team that has shown that they play well against this team. But having said that, Brandon, I agree. They're not going to have trouble rushing the quarterback, and they're going to rely on Derrick Henry a lot. And I think that they better maintain. If they can get into the red zone, they need to score running 100% of. They're not going to be able to kick field goals and just try to defend against this team. So I tend to lean that Baltimore wins the game, but I think it stays within the 6 points. And either way, I'd rather have the 6-point buffer. So I'll take Tennessee.
And to your point with Tennessee struggling, after the 5-0 start, through the first 4 weeks, they only gave up 3 sacks. And since then they've given up 12.
Taylor Lewan.
Yeah, to that point. So the offensive line hasn't quite been as good. That affects the run game, the pass game, and
Guys, with that, I have to get going. So don't see any of you. Have a good Thanksgiving. Talk to you later on.
Take care, Mike. Burn that sweatshirt.
We will move to the Pats at 4-5 and the Texans at 2-7. Pats laying 2, over-unders 49. Houston is on pace to join the 08 Lions as the only teams in 25 years to finish last in run defense and last in opposing passer rating. It ain't Deshaun Watson, guys. He ain't the problem. I mean, they have problems, but it's definitely not him. They're allowing 167.4 rushing yards per game. That's the most in team history. New England, on the other hand, with Damian Harris leading the way right now, is averaging over 161 yards per game. This seems to be a game where the script should indicate they're going to run the ball quite a bit, Brandon. This is not going to be – and that's their strength, right? I mean, they have this great offensive line. You said Cam's not playing, I think you said?
No, Cam is playing.
Oh, Cam is playing. Okay, I thought you said Cam wasn't playing. Either way.
Cam just had a ridiculous outfit.
Oh,
you're not putting that up. You're not putting that up. You got to put that up, Brian.
Yeah,
I don't.
You can't talk about today's game.
You do have it. It was sent to everyone. You have it. You were briefed on this.
It was sent to everyone.
It was sent to everyone. Look at the sports box chat. Come on now.
Right, I'm
Cam's outfit of the day.
All right, talk amongst yourselves. I'll put the picture up.
Yeah, well, we're always talking amongst ourselves. But listen, I mean, this game right here, you have to love the for once. Jacoby Myers, Damian Harris. I think they have big games. Sony Michel comes in. If you're a fancy guy,
he's out.
Who's that?
Inactive. Michelle is inactive.
Yeah, Michelle's going to be inactive.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's even better for the Damian Harris owners because I think he, when he gets 20+ carries a game, he's like your typical Alabama back. He runs downhill, blocking good. It's going to be a great game to see what Deshaun Watson run around. I think he's going to have some success against this New England defense that struggled against the passing offense that you saw a couple weeks ago with the New York Jets. I mean, I think really New England benefited a lot from. Jesus, look at that.
Is he going yodeling? Is that what that is?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he's delivering hot chocolate in the Swiss Alps. I don't understand what this guy thinks. I mean, he's built like a friggin' superhero, but the guy kind of dresses. I don't know. I'd like to see Brandon pull that outfit off. Yeah. I mean, imagine we walk into the wine bar and you see somebody dressed like that.
Imagine you see me dressed like that at a wine bar.
Yeah.
Who goes to the wine? What is a wine bar? Who goes to the wine bar?
Exactly what it sounds like.
The wine bar, not a wine bar on Bellevue.
Oh, okay.
You've lived in this town your entire life. Oh boy. Houston is allowing the third most fantasy points per game to running backs, as you mentioned, Tony. So Damian Harris has 100-plus rushing yards in 3 of 6. That's going to be very interesting. Pats are averaging 21 points per game this year. That is the fewest since Bill Belichick's first season in 2000 with the New England Patriots. So this game has no playoff implication whatsoever. Houston doesn't have their first-round pick, as we have chronicled on this show. Every week, they can't even enjoy the 2-7 and get the fruits of it. This seems to me where I think the Pats cover too. Right?
You think the Pats cover?
I think the Pats cover too.
I like Houston. I think a monsoon doesn't save the Pats defense this week, like they did last week. I mean, it was a perfect storm, quote unquote, no pun intended. For them to beat Baltimore last week, and I think that's why Patriots getting 2. Give me Houston Texans. Give me the 2 points on the road. That Deshaun exposes that offense. I'm sorry. Deshaun exposes that defensive pass, the pass defense.
I'm with you, Tony. I like Houston in this game. I think they win the game outright. I'm sure the Miami Dolphins are rooting for New England, which is a very rare occurrence, but I'm sure that they're rooting for the Patriots to win this game, as they will get a higher draft pick if, Houston continues to lose. But I like Deshaun Watson to win this game. He's the only hope really for Houston, but I do think he pulls it out. Brandon Cooks has been playing since the firing of Bill O'Brien. Brandon Cooks has been excellent.
Here's the other thing too. You're talking about teams rooting for teams, Brandon. I know the Jacksonville Jaguars are big New England Pats fans too, because if the Jaguars beat Houston, they provincially have every tiebreaker with. I'm not sure. If the Patriots beat Houston, Jaguars have every tiebreaker with the Jets now going through for the most part. Big fans of the New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguar winner.
Yeah, just need the Jets to win a game.
Yeah,
right.
Good luck with that one.
The game has no bearing on anything, but I'll just go with the Pats on this one. I just think that the Houston defense. I mean, again, not that the Pats offense is going to light anybody on fire, but they can run the ball very, very well, and it's going to be a problem for Houston. I think that
absolutely.
But just from a matter of time management too. I mean, Deshaun might not even have the ball enough. Time of possession. This should be a game where, they dominate time of possession. Like, I need to see the Pats with like a 40-minute time of possession here. Like, I just think that's what running the ball can do for you, and Houston can't. So we move to the 4:00 games. Interesting game here. The 6-3 Dolphins visit the 3-6 Broncos. Dolphins laying 4 over under 45.5. Tua's 104.8 passer rating this year is the third highest by a rookie in NFL history that starts at a minimum of 50 attempts. Pretty good. The quarterback's also going to be playing well from the top end of the first round, Brandon. I know you have some thoughts on who's the best, who's not. Just your thoughts on just what you've seen from Tua so far.
Yeah, so Tua is one of only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to start his career 3-0. And have at least 5 touchdowns with no interceptions. Can you name the other quarterback?
Oh, sorry. I was sending something to the Sports Box chat. Give me that quiz again, or that trivia question.
One other quarterback, including Tua, so 2 total in the history of the NFL, to start their career 3-0 with at least 5 touchdowns, no picks. Who's the quarterback?
Did I already mention him on the show?
We have talked about him at some point yesterday.
Did I call him a rapist?
No.
Carson Wentz.
Yep. He'd be the other one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But I like the Dolphins in this game. Drew Lock has been terrible, turning the ball over a ton. He's had some rib issues as well. The Miami defense, it's been lights out. Tua has been just playing good football, not turning the ball over, playing smart. I like the Dolphins in this game. I don't think the 4 is a little bit deceiving, I think. I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like Denver keeps this game to a field goal, like a 24-21 type of game. But I do like the Dolphins to win the game outright.
I like the Dolphins here. I like the Dolphins to that defense. Drew Lock has regressed the last couple games. I know he's been injured, so it's tough. Melvin Gordon has been ineffective throughout the back. Exactly. Terrible is a great way to look at how he's been running. I mean, when you're looking at the Miami Dolphins, that defense, I mean, they're using the zone blitz that was popular a few years ago, and it seems like people are just confused by it. I mean, what they've been doing is just absurd on defense. They've been lights out. Tua's looked great. for the last couple of games too. So it's that thing where you got one team that is just on a roll, and then you have another team that's kind of faltering. I'll take the Dolphins. I'll lay to 14. I don't know if this game is going to be close because I don't know if Denver's going to be able to score points with them. I mean, Xavier Howard is going to be all over Jerry Jeudy. I can't see them doing much offensively. So give me Miami 24-10 kind of style game.
Yeah, I thought Denver could hang in a couple games recently. They really haven't. So I'm going to get off that train, at least for this season. I'll take Miami minus the 4. I think Miami's obviously playing so much better than they are. And I think that the over-under being about 45 is interesting. I think that they're calling for a lower scoring game. So I don't think they think Denver's going to score too many points.
Exactly. Let me clear up a misconception that I know our departed co-host just mentioned earlier about the rotation of the Miami running backs. All the running backs are out. Jordan Howard was cut. The only healthy running back they have is Salvin Ahmed. So let's just clear that up, that there is only one. And fantasy purposes, he's not a bad option.
Yeah, it's been really a circus there in the backfield for Miami. Breida and Howard, they haven't been able to find a guy that's been stay healthy.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Brandon. Well, no, obviously they've been healthy, but listen, Myles Gaskin did a phenomenal job when he was healthy.
Yeah, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think the Gaskins has been a pleasant surprise. Jordan Howard, I think everybody knew was a waste of money, and now he could waste somebody else's money in Philadelphia. So, I mean, that was just a joke. But Gaskins did. But clear up any misconception from earlier. All those guys are out except Ahmad. If you have Ahmad, put him in your lineup. Because him and Tua, I think, could do some RPO action and might be able to have a chance to break off a nice long run.
Miami is allowing just 20.2 points per game. That's the 5th fewest in the NFL. They allowed the most last year. Pretty big change on that defense by 10 points. Broncos have allowed 30-plus in 4 consecutive. Their longest streak's in 68. Bodes well for Miami. I like Miami in the game. My survivor pick this week, this is shocking, right, is the Chargers hosting the 0-9 Jets. They're 2-7, laying 9.5. Over-under is 47.5. Justin Herbert is the only quarterback in the Super Bowl era with 1 or fewer wins and 100-plus passer rating in his first year. Minimum of 8 starts. He's got to get his second today, right, Brandon?
You would think. I mean, he's been playing fantastic. Justin Herbert certainly has not been the problem, as we mentioned earlier with Deshaun Watson in Houston. The problem hasn't been Justin Herbert, but look, they got to win a game. I mean, they had a 17-point lead against Tampa Bay. They had a 17-point lead against the Saints. They've had leads in these games and haven't been able to finish. They're playing the Jets today, the worst team in football. No Sam Darnold. Joe Flacco is going to be playing. The Jets are just a disgrace. They're starting. I don't even know who they're playing at corner. I believe it's Lamar Jackson is starting for them at cornerback. It's just, it's a really bad situation for the Jets. I like the Chargers. I like them to cover. Justin Herbert plays well again, and they win.
I wish Galetta was still on the show right now because he had a question yesterday. He was texting me, asking me about some betting options and stuff like that, and there were good questions, and one of the questions that he had was about fading the public, right? He asked, do you fade the public? And a lot of the people who are let's call themselves sharps or professional bettors or anything like that, where the sharp money is going, where the public money is going, that's the whole thing. For the most part, my question, my status to him was, listen, I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion about what side the people are leaning on. Because, fading the public or betting with the sharps or whatever. I think you have to break down the games individually and kind of get them, high yourself, unless you just want to throw money out there. The fans, the public, everybody, guess who they're on today in this game?
The Jets, probably.
77% of the public money is in our area in certain sports books is on the New York Jets getting 9.5 or 10. Is this a time where you fade the public, or is the public, smart? I'm going to tell you this is the time where you fade the public. There's no way, shape, or form that the Jets should be within 10 points of the Chargers. Chargers are playing with a little bit more fire. They're playing for something. The Jets are playing for nothing. If this game was in New York or Jersey, however you want to look at it, I would say, you know what, the Jets would probably be getting about 7 points if they were home now. Maybe that might be a decent bet, especially because, the Chargers have a propensity to play close games. But in LA, I'm going with the Chargers. I'll lay the 9.5. I'll lay the 10. At worst, this is a 10-point game.
I have him in Survivor today. I can't think of any better matchup, and I think this is the one time the Chargers. I mean, look, my strategy has been follow the Jets around. I'm gonna ride it until I can't. It's working out fine. It just, from a Jets perspective, look, losing is winning. We've belabored the point for weeks and weeks. They're averaging 13.4 points a game. They have negative 147 point differential. They stink. They've scored fewer than 20 points in 7 of 9. So you throw all this like Chargers can't win, one possession games out the window. Guess what? It ain't going to be a one possession game because the Jets stink.
They did look good against New England for the majority of that game. Is that a concern that they could play to that level again in a game where they're, giving 9.5 points?
Do you think they look good, or New England's passing off a defense just that bad? I mean, listen, the Jets looked like they tried to give that game away. I mean, we talked about it after the season. I mean, literally, that looks like a game that they were just like, you know what, we might win this game. We're throwing the football back to the Jets and back to the New England Patriots and hoping that they win. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's a pretty good chance that the Jets are that bad and the New England Patriots pass defense is that bad.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any way that the Jets can keep this game close.
You say life's too short to bet unders. Life's too short to bet the New York Jets. I don't want to win money that way. I'd rather lose it. 7-2 Green Bay at 6-3 Indianapolis. Colts are laying 1.5 in this game. The over/under is 51. Green Bay, first team in the Super Bowl era to average 30-plus points per game, have 5 or fewer giveaways in their first 9 games. I look at this line, and it makes me very nervous because I think the line begs you to take Green Bay. That's where I lean.
Well, listen, Brian, I think this game isn't very simple at all. I mean, because when you look at it, you have Indianapolis Colts, who has the best defense in the NFL, against the Green Bay Packers, and their running defense, which is completely horrible. I don't know if you have the stat of where they're at, but they're not a good running defense. Green Bay's defensive scheme lends very well to the strengths of Phillip Rivers. They don't do a lot of man. They're in a lot of cover 4. They're very similar to what Cincinnati does on their defensive end. And Phillip Rivers was okay against Cincinnati and didn't have any issues with it. So when you factor that kind of stuff in, and you just don't say, hey, Green Bay is really good. They have Aaron Rodgers. They don't turn the ball over. So that's, I think, where you get your number as Colts being the favorite here. It's just going to be about a team who, the story of this game is going to be about what team imposes their will on the other team. If you've seen how Indianapolis played coming off of a Thursday night game, so whether you have 10 days rest, they're at home. There's some heavy trends that are going Indianapolis here. Is Aaron Rodgers ready for another clunker against a good defense like they did against Tampa Bay? That's the question. I'll take Indianapolis. I think that that they play tight. I don't think they make too many mistakes, and I think that they're going to win in a very, very close game. I'll take Indianapolis. I'll lay the 1.5.
Yeah, I like the Colts as well because I think they're going to be able to run the football. As you mentioned, Tony, Green Bay, terrible against the run. We've seen that time and time again the last couple of years. And also, if you paid attention, Darius Leonard called out Aaron Rodgers a little bit, who Rodgers mentioned earlier in the season that Fred Warner, best linebacker in the NFL that he's faced, Darius Leonard said, I have something to prove. And so, there's a little fire lit for Darius Leonard there. He's a great player. I like the Colts because I do think they're able to run the football and anger Aaron Rodgers on the defensive side and maybe force a turnover, which is rare. But we've seen it. When you're able to force Aaron Rodgers to turn the football over, he is not the same player. We have seen that.
Melts.
It's a real thing.
And here's the other thing that I didn't mention. I think I'll be interested to see. Devontae Adams has been hurt all week.
Yeah, an ankle injury.
Yeah, so an ankle injury. So we'll see what his effectiveness is going to be. So I mean, with Devontae Adams not being 100%, Rodgers might not have a huge number of opportunities out there. But against a very strong defense, we've seen Aaron Rodgers look very good at beating up bad teams. A banged up Devontae Adams against a very good defense might be his undoing.
I'm just gonna lean Green Bay here. I'm literally. It's literally to me, it's Rodgers versus Rivers, and I don't want to bet Phillip Rivers in that matchup. I'm taking the better quarterback. I agree that the Colts defense is far and away better than Green Bay's. just something. I just think Rodgers finds a way. So I mean, I will roll with AR in this one. And again, it's the first thing I thought of was, wow, they really want me to take Green Bay, but that seems to happen with these Colts games. Like they wanted you to take Baltimore when they played the Colts in very similar spot, and Baltimore beat them by 11 points, or I think it was 11 points. So I just
it was like the Colts against Tennessee 10 days ago. That line moved a lot as well, and I did like the Colts in that game.
Last of the afternoon games, the 2-7 Dallas Cowboys visit the 2-5 Minnesota Vikings. Is it 2-5? No, I think my number.
I think they're 4-5.
Yeah,
they've won like 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's my number's wrong, man. We do it late at night.
It must be the leaf blowing.
Nah, he stopped now. He's done. Vikings -7.5 in this game. Over under 49.5. Dallas is scoring 10 points per game since week 6. That is the fewest in the NFL. Minnesota has 3 straight wins after their week 7 bye. Started the season 1-5. Obviously, they can't be 2-5. Look, if Minnesota doesn't win this game, they got bigger problems. This is not a Cowboys team that's going to go in there and blow. And I don't think can beat most teams. Frankly, they did play better last week. Whatever. I think the larger issue here, and this is a long-term issue, is what you have with Elliott moving forward, because it's becoming obvious that he was largely a product of the offensive line that's not there anymore. He's averaging 16.7 carries per game, just 63 yards. It's 3.8 yards per carry, and Dalvin Cook is just blowing him away. Zeke's got all career lows. Cooks has all career highs.
Jesus Christ! Why would you pick this week or this season to bang on Ezekiel Elliott? Ezekiel Elliott is not a project of the offensive line. Ezekiel Elliott is a talented back. Me and you are both vehemently on record saying that it wasn't the right pick. But to bash the guy in a season like this, when he's had trash cans in front of him, that's just poor form, man. I mean, you can't bash it. Why would you bash Ezekiel Elliott out there?
Because you pay running backs based on what they bring to the table, not what they do behind the situation you already have.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you could bring Emmitt Smith, you could bring Herschel Walker, you could bring Tony Dorsett, you could bring all these running backs from yesteryear that were phenomenal, but you put them behind the offensive line. We're not talking about backups. We're talking about third stringers that played most of the year, Brian. And listen, I'm not happy with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not happy with his production. I'm not happy with his fumbles. But to use this situation this year to bash him, comparing him against Dalvin Cook or whatever. I mean, listen, that's just a little unfair. I mean, it's just a bad situation in Dallas. I mean, you have Zach Martin starting right now at right tackle. For the first time, they put Steele on the bench, and we'll see if that has a little bit of change to it. But I think starting off by bashing Zeke, I think we're just kind of like missing the boat a little bit here, man.
I like the Vikings in this game, and to turn these points, I think it should be bashing more Jerry Jones than anyone for the Cowboys' woes. Just the way I see it, and I think Jerry is more to blame for what's going on than certainly Zeke, who's been an excellent player. But I mean, there's only so much Zeke can do behind that offensive line, and when he's the key focal point without Dak there any longer to really be a threat in the passing game, I just think it's difficult for Zeke to be effective. Zeke was having a very good season, catching the ball and scoring touchdowns when Dak was there, so he was producing. And ever since Dak got hurt, he's been really bad. It's certainly not a Zeke problem to me.
And the offensive line and everything like that. But Brand, to your point about bashing Jerry Jones, it's his fault. No, it's not his fault. It's Will McKay. He's the one who puts the team together. I don't know what Jerry Jones is supposed to do about injuries, man. I mean, if this Dallas team's healthy, they're 4 games above the NFC East, which is, they probably have 6 or 7 wins right now easily. So I don't see how it's a Jerry Jones thing. I mean, what do you like? You say it's his fault and his problem. What did he do to cause this situation about all these injuries? I mean, he got the best backup quarterback you could find. I mean, stack the offensive line, stack the offense. If you want to blame him for bringing in the wrong coaching, I'm 100% for that.
Yeah, I would say the coaching as well as the defense, not really addressing that in the draft as early as I believe they should have in the first round.
Well, no, there wasn't a player that you could sit there and say in the first round that they should have grabbed over CD. Who would they have picked over CD that would have made a medium impact?
to go back and look at
I was hammering for Chase on at the time. He hasn't really played that well.
No, Kayvon Chasen wasn't going to do anything. Listen, Diggs, who's been their quarterback, who's their defensive back in the second round, has been phenomenal. I mean, he's made rookie mistakes and everything like that, but he's been one of the best. He's been one of the best in the secondary that you could think, and he's been the only consistent one in that secondary. So, if you want to bash Jerry Jones, bash him for the coaching change and not be in the right situation, bash Mike Nolan. But as we talked about in the past, the factors of changing the coaches, changing the defensive scheme in this lineup, in this COVID era with not having a full training camp, I mean, it's just difficult. I mean, they went out and they signed, Gerald McCoy got hurt, it's just, I can't put this one on Jerry or Will McKay, who is actually the GM of the Cowboys. So I can't really do that. I mean, the mass public thought that the McCarthy hiring was a good hiring, but it seemed like it's just a very difficult season to make a full sweep change, and I think that's more of an issue with the injuries and stuff like that. I mean, it's just one of them seasons where you're sitting here and it's just so much went wrong where it's hard to blame one person. I mean,
The Dak injury certainly was an unlucky thing that, he hasn't been hurt at all and he gets hurt. And
yeah, well, I mean, listen, Dak has the headlines of the Dak injury being bad. And obviously that's horrible. But you know what? Ty Smith's been out. La'el Collins hasn't played. I mean, listen, imagine if they traded La'el Collins and 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. I mean, you see what a mess he's been in Seattle, right? I mean, that would have been something where you point the finger at Jerry and you say, that's a Jerry Jones move. Give him credit for not making those moves too, because that would have been a mess. Because Jamal Adams is no bad secondary; he's just Jamal Adams with a bad secondary. You know what I'm saying? So he's not the child he looks. So let's give him a little credit for that kind of stuff. As far as this game itself, I mean, you're going to have to pressure Kirk Cousins. You're going to have to get him to make mistakes, and somehow you're going to get a turnover from Kirk Cousins. Andy Dalton's return, that would be something interesting to see. They're a team that's going to be able to score against a bad Minnesota passing defense. But are they going to be able to stop Dalvin Cook? Are their defense league going to start? I would lean Minnesota, but betting, if you're going to give me a 7.5 points, I like what I saw against Dallas and Pittsburgh. And the week before, they've been playing harder. They've had a little bit more, seems like a little more comfort. So I'll take Dallas with the points, but Minnesota outright.
By the hook, it's a 27-20 game, in my opinion.
Brian Gazar, just related to you there, or is that my cousin? I can't tell.
Brother.
That's your brother. Okay, my cousin's named Brian Gazar. So it's not like there's not enough Hamiltons in Brian Gazar. Yeah. But Penny,
the school teacher?
I mean, what's that?
The school teacher?
Yeah.
So also a relative.
Yeah, exactly. So you're talking. So does Dallas take the tackle from Oregon with their first pick and move Smith? That might not be Penny Sewell. Yeah, listen, he's phenomenal. He's definitely by far the number 1 tackle in the draft. Really going to come back down to see where they pick in the draft. So when you're looking at Dallas draft needs at this point, you're also looking at Patrick Surtain Jr. You never know what you're looking at. Until you kind of really get there and see what it is. I think with Andy Dalton back. I think where there's enough offensive talent, they'll win 1 or 2 more games, and they'll probably drop down to like the 6th or 7th pick or something like that. Unfortunately, I know Brian Attar doesn't want to hear that, but they're going to win a couple games by default. Whether they should or not, I probably not. But I just think Dalton's going to be good enough to kind of get them out of the doldrums.
Losing is winning.
You're right.
I'm not getting off that. They need to lose games. This is not. I don't. It doesn't matter. The season's shot in the ass anyway.
You're right.
The Super Bowl pick is not looking good.
No, well, everybody got hurt. Everybody got hurt.
The Cowboys and Ravens. I had the Ravens in the Super Bowl as well, but I did not have the Cowboys. So
listen, I didn't have the Cowboys either, Brandon. I thought the Cowboys pick was interesting, and we noted that at the time, but at least the Ravens have a shot still.
They do.
Yeah, and so does Tampa.
Just Tampa.
Sunday night, a rematch from Week 6, AFC West battle. Kansas City Chiefs 8-1 at the Raiders 6-3. That one came to the Raiders back in Week 6, where the Raiders got a 40-32 win at Arrowhead. Chiefs laying 7.5. Over under is 56.5. KC scored 23 plus points in 23 consecutive games, including the playoffs. It is the longest streak in NFL history. This is a game where, the Chiefs need to be like, that loss really just stuck in our craw. They need to go out there and actually blow the Raiders out. I don't mean that they need to go just win. I think they need to statement game this.
And that's exactly what happened. In bed by 10 o'clock. This game's over at halftime.
I just think when it reads 18-3 after a bye, that bodes well. Any concern, guys, on Edwards-Helaire? His touches are way down from the first 6 weeks. He went from 21.3 down to 8.7. His rushing yards game are almost a third, roughly. Scrimmage yards are about a third, roughly, probably in line with the fact that his touches are about a third, roughly. But they don't appear to be using him the way they did, at least when the season started. Not that they're really using Le'Veon Bell that much either. At least not that I've noticed. But they haven't lost multiple division games in a season since 2014. I don't think they lose this one.
Well, when you're talking about Edwards-Helaire, I think what you saw early in the season was that they were just trying to get things under wraps a little bit because they had the lack of preseason and everything like that. They really utilized the run game. Then you've seen Mahomes kind of open up the playbook, trying to pass more, try to have some big games and all kinds of stuff going on like that. So, I think Bell cutting into his carries isn't really that big of a factor at all. I think, Bell reception-wise would probably be a little bit more of an issue. But, I think Kansas City, Andy Reid coming off a bye has been phenomenal throughout his career, unlike Doug Peterson, who we mentioned last week has a pretty bad record off a bye. But, he's completely – the thing here, though, is if you look at the Raiders, they're able to score. They put up points last time they played Kansas City. They put up points the last couple of weeks. I mean, they're able to score with Kansas City, and I think if the Chiefs aren't careful, they're going to be in a dogfight. Now, we could talk about statement games, and I think you both are right. Brandon, in bed by 10 o'clock, statement games. Kansas City should come out and make a statement game to avenge their only loss of the season. It's not going to be as easy, though. I think the Raiders are going to be game, and they're going to put up a solid fight. I do think Kansas City kind of has enough offense, and I think the focus coming out of bye should be where it needs to be. So I'll take Kansas City. I'll lay the 7.5. They should win 10, but expect a 37-30 game, something like that. I expect some points, 37-28. I do really expect a shootout in this one.
I do expect a cover, 37-20.
37?
Maybe it's right around. That's right at the over. 6.5 is right there.
I really think this is a game where Kansas City just comes out and enforces their will on the imposes their will on the Oakland Raiders or the Vegas Raiders. I really do. I just think this is a game where Mahomes has a great day. They throw it all over the place. The Oakland defense really is not very good. It's Max Crosby and a bunch of guys who, really aren't very good.
Player of the week last week, Jeff Heath. Dallas fans everywhere cringing on that Raiders defense.
I didn't know why they let him go personally. I liked him last year.
I didn't like him at all. He was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. But Brandon, you're right, Brandon. I think Pat Holmes comes out there and he lights it up. Pat Holmes and his Kansas City offense looks like the Kansas City offense that we know and love. But defensively, though, I think the Raiders are going to, with their offense and how they've been doing, I think they get Ruggs over the top. I think Waller works things underneath. I think they pound Josh Jacobs. I think there's enough in there to make it close. I mean, for all the fireworks that Patrick Mahomes puts up, defensively, he doesn't play defense. He has no effect on that.
I just don't think Oakland can do it to Kansas City twice in the same season.
Well, right, absolutely.
I could be wrong. I don't see it happening. I think Kansas City is just gonna blow this thing open early, and I don't think Oakland or Vegas is going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I listen. I mean, they're going to want to get the game against theoretically Pittsburgh at home, right? And then Pittsburgh isn't losing. And you look at their schedule again. We're not going to discuss it today, but we can go look at the rest because they're going to win today. We can go look at the rest of it and say, where do you see a loss in their schedule? There ain't that many spots. I mean, Kansas City can't just look. They're going to run away with their division. That's not a question. The question now becomes you don't get a bye anymore at the 2 seed. So if they intend to get a week off, they need to get ahead of Pittsburgh. And I mean, get ahead of Pittsburgh. They really can't. They don't have a lot of margin for error if you look at Pittsburgh's schedule, which we'll probably break down next week. But
they do Thanksgiving night in Baltimore.
If somehow
at home versus Baltimore.
If somehow the Raiders, and I keep wanting to say Oakland, the Vegas Raiders, were to pull off the upset again, is there a chance we could see the Raiders win the division? Or is this the Chiefs division to lose regardless?
Chiefs division all the way around.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they would be interesting though because they do have that tiebreaker and that margin of error disappears because are you going to talk about schedule? Okay, this is a game coming off a bye that the Chiefs should not be looking past because you have that big Monday. I think it's a Monday night or Sunday night matchup.
No, it's Sunday night next week
with Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, yep.
If the Raiders come out and play a good game and win in home against a Chiefs team that they already beat, now the Chiefs have to go play Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. Your margin of error, so you would be looking at what? The Chiefs would be 8-2. Listen, now they go, they finish with New Orleans is a tough matchup. Miami defenses might be a tough matchup for them. I mean, they don't have a hard schedule, but it's the margin of error for Kansas City gets real small. If they go out and beat this team today, then they have a little bit of cushion to play with. So I think Kansas City should be focused with the win, but if they don't, look out. Might be interesting.
Last but not least, NFC battle. 6-3 Rams visit the 7-3 Buccaneers. Bucks laying 4.5. Over/under is 48. For the Rams, 24 points per game this season. Only the Eagles are averaging fewer points per game among current NFC playoff teams. And really, they stink. So it's not even that's really a playoff team. It's just cosmetic nonsense. Brandon, Tom looked better last week for sure. Coming off the
hard to look worse.
Against the Saints, right?
Really lit up that average Carolina defense.
Yeah. Just your thoughts on this one. This is a bit of a tougher matchup. Rams defense a lot close, a lot more Saints than they are Panthers. Probably better.
They're going to have to run the football. And we saw it against the Saints. They did not establish the run early, and then they got trounced. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to score 38 like the Saints are able to. I think this is going to be a close, low-scoring game. I don't know. I don't think the Bucs cover the 4.5. I do think they win the game by a field goal. It feels like a 23-20 type of game where Tom makes a play late and they get a lead and they're able to hold on to it. But the Rams offense, like you mentioned, averaging 24 points a game, it hasn't been as explosive. They lost Brandon Cooks this year. They haven't been able to get those deep balls down the field with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods haven't quite been as good. But I do like the Bucs to win this game. I think it's close. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, you can argue, are the two best defensive players at their spots in the entire league, and they're phenomenal. But I think in the end, with Tom and with the three receivers, because there's only one Jalen Ramsey, with the three receivers, I do think they're able to make enough plays to win this game in the end.
Yeah, I think that the 24 points per game that the LA, only Philly is averaging fewer. I think you have to when you look at their schedule, I don't think the 24 points per game was too bad against some solid defenses out there. I mean, they did score 24 against Chicago's defense. They played Miami. They played 23 against Seattle. So I mean, they're doing good. I think the Rams are probably, if you look at the NFC West, the Rams might be the most complete team on both sides of the ball. Their offense is good. Okay. 24 points per game isn't bad. And, maybe in today's NFL and how teams are looking, it's not bad. If a team goes out and scores 24 points, they give themselves an opportunity to win the game every week. I'd like to see where their defensive numbers rate on opposed to that, because you're talking about, a second fewest points per game among NFC playoff teams, but they're 6-3. So, I mean, the defense have done their job. When you look at the other side of the ball, as Brandon mentioned, with Ramsey, Donald, I mean, they have some guys who can make plays, disruptions, and expect Ramsey to shadow Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, most likely Mike Evans, because they'll just probably take him completely out. This is a game, though, where you're going to really see what team Tampa Bay is. I mean, last week, they played Carolina, and Carolina is an average team at best. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. Now, let's remember, 17-17 tie going into the locker room, all right, against the Carolina Panthers. Ronald Jones breaks a huge run, 98-yarder. Now they got a lead. They kicked a field goal. And then they added a couple cheap touchdowns at the end. I'm not going to call it cheap, but they added 2 touchdowns at the end of the game to kind of break that open from an average Carolina team. Seems like they're getting the offense a little bit back on track. Now you face a Los Angeles Rams team who is a bad road team. I think all 3 losses have been on the road. I know they lost in Miami. I know they lost in Buffalo. I can't remember where their other loss is. Let me see if I can pull it up here. At Buffalo, and they lost at San Fran the one day that San Fran had a healthy lineup.
Everyone healthy. Yep.
Yeah, but so they're a bad road team. I think Tampa Bay, you're going to see a lot with them. The game plan for Tampa is going to be very easy. Run the ball. When you're not running the ball, you want to go 4 wide into that against that Rams defense. You want to go 4 wide. You want quick passes. You want to utilize Antonio Brown in the slot. You want to utilize Chris Godwin. Those are the guys that are going to have to excel. Defensively, easy game plan. The Bucs are one of the best defensive teams in the league when they blitz. When they played New Orleans a couple weeks ago, they didn't blitz, and you see what happened to them. And they got ran out the field. You blitz Jared Goff. You make him make quick decisions, quick throws. I don't see the Rams having an extreme effective running game this week. So I'll take Tampa Bay to win the game. 4.5 is a little bit more points that I'd like to give up, but it's definitely a line that's trying to beg you to take the Rams. I say Tampa wins 24-17. Well, no, it's probably. I think the Rams will be able to score a little bit more than that. So we'll say like a 28-21 kind of game. I think that's where we're heading, and I think this is a game that Tampa Bay needs. They need to get right, and especially now with the door open with New Orleans Saints, and their quarterback issues. So I think Tampa Bay should be focused and get the W here.
And Tony, I'm sorry.
Listen, this reminds me so much of the Saints game, though. Same kind of situation. It's Tampa Bay's got a home game, a game where they were roughly this line, I want to say, against the Saints, too. It was about 4.5, 5.5. Rams are a better defensive team. I don't think obviously I'll prefer the quarterback the normal quarterback in New Orleans over Jared Goff. I think if I'm betting the game, I take the Rams to cover, but I think the Bucs can still win the game. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams went outright either. I think that the Rams, again, Seattle's a game ahead of them now. They want to at least keep pace with them. They beat Seattle last week. But they're going to need to. I don't think 24 points gets it done. And that's where I think that the question comes into is can they score more points than they've been scoring? Tampa Bay's defense it's still good. I don't think it's where it was a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's still fine. So yeah, I think Brady struggles against this defense. I think at the very least the Rams cover the game.
Yeah, and to your point, Tony, you have to get involved with the slot receivers, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin. If you think back, the last time Tom played against this defense, I know no Jalen Ramsey, but there was Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, Julian Edelman, 10 catches over 100 yards and won the Super Bowl MVP in that game. So there has been a precedent where the slot receiver against this defense with Tom can have success.
No, you're 100% right, Brian. It's going to be fun, man. I think we have some really good matchups this week, in general. I think this is one of them. I think there's, should be a fun NFL slate today. Maybe Brian will watch some games.
Great slate of primetime games this week. Thursday, Sunday, Monday. Great slate.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching Week 11 preview. Catch us throughout the rest of the week. Follow the Sports Box Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Join Outside the Box, our sports discussion group. It's a lot of fun. Money back guarantee because it's free. On behalf of Mike Left, Brandon, and Tony, enjoy Week 11, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.